You know, deep in the Old Testament, buried in this long list of names that are really hard to pronounce, there are just two short verses about a man named Jabez. It's a tiny story about a huge prayer, and that one prayer ended up launching a multi-million copy bestseller and sparking this massive debate. So today, let's break down what might just be the Bible's most controversial prayer, the story of Jabez.
Okay, so picture this. The book of First Chronicles. It's mostly this huge, sprawling family tree for the nation of Israel. I mean, it is a super detailed list of who's who. But then, all of a sudden, it just comes to a screeching halt. The author literally stops the genealogy to tell us about this one guy, Jabez, who isn't connected to anyone before or after him. So the big question, the real mystery is, why?
To figure out why the chronicler slams on the brakes here, we first have to understand who this man was. And it all starts with his name, which is, well, to put it mildly, a real downer.
Right, so we're right in the middle of the records for Judah, the tribe that would eventually become the royal line. The author is listing out all these distinguished families, people with status, with connections. And then there's Jabez. His lack of a family tree here, that's not an accident, it's totally intentional. See, this isn't just some historical side note. It's like the author is shining a giant theological spotlight on him, telling us, hey, pay attention, the lesson here has nothing to do with your bloodline.
You have to remember, in ancient Hebrew culture, a name wasn't just a label. It was this powerful statement about who you were, about your destiny. And Jabez, or Yabez, is a direct pun on the Hebrew word etzev, which means pain, or grief, or sorrow. His own mother gave him this name, saying she gave birth to him in pain. I mean, his entire identity was literally wrapped up in the idea of suffering.
And we're not talking about just any kind of pain here. This word, etziv, carries some serious weight. It's the exact same word God uses way back in Genesis chapter 3 when he tells Eve that she's going to experience pain in childbearing. But it's more than just physical. Just think of the deepest etziv Eve must have felt when her son Cain murdered his brother Abel. That's a deep, soul-crushing kind of agony. So when Jabez is named pain, it means his life was basically defined by loss, trouble, and this profound sorrow.
So what do you do when your life is literally named pain? Well, Jabez does something pretty remarkable. He prays a short, incredibly direct, and really bold prayer.
And this is it, the heart of his prayer. It's a series of powerful requests. Bless me, expand my territory, and then the final, critical plea. Keep me from harm so I can be free from pain. Think about what he's doing. He's asking God to completely reverse his identity, to literally undo the curse of his own name. It's a prayer to overcome the destiny he was handed at birth.
So the story has this really simple but incredibly powerful three-step arc. You've got a guy defined by pain and loss. He goes out and actively seeks God to change his life. And the final word from the Bible on this, it's just as direct. And God granted his request. A life of pain gets transformed into a life of blessing. Simple as that. Okay, so it's a fantastic story, right? But why is it here? The chronicler, who is writing this centuries later to an Israel that had also gone through some deep pain and loss, had a very specific reason for sticking this seemingly random story right here.
Yeah, this is way more than just a feel-good anecdote. The chronicler is using Jabez as a powerful model, a case study, really, for the entire nation. It's his deep theological lesson baked right into a history book.
Now, the key takeaway here wasn't, hey, just say these magic words and you'll get rich. The real point was all about dependence. The chronicler is telling his audience, and, well, us, that it doesn't matter how awful your situation is or how much pain is in your past, seeking God is the way forward. It's about admitting you can't fix it all yourself and learning to trust in a power that's way bigger than your pain.
Fast forward about 2,000 years, and this ancient lesson on depending on God, well, it takes on a whole new life. It becomes one of the biggest things in modern publishing and, for a lot of people, a huge controversy.
So back in the year 2000, this tiny little book by Bruce Wilkinson called The Prayer of Jabez just explodes. It became this runaway bestseller selling more than 9 million copies. It basically encouraged people to recite the prayer every single day to get blessings and prosperity from God. All of a sudden, this guy nobody had ever heard of from the Old Testament was a household name.
And this is really where the debate gets heated. On one side, you have what seems to be the chronicler's original point. Trust God, depend on him, and he'll get you through your pain in whatever way he sees fit. But on the other side, you've got this prosperity reading, which can sound pretty transactional. If you pray this prayer, God will bless you. And that blessing is probably going to look like stuff, material prosperity, bigger boundaries, you name it.
And believe me, this isn't just some abstract theological argument. Bruce Wilkinson himself actually tried to apply this prosperity idea on a massive scale, with a huge farming project for orphans in Africa. But the whole thing ended pretty unhappily, with a lot of disillusionment and brokenness. The analysis suggests the problem was reducing this really deep message about dependence into a simple formula for getting stuff, something the original author probably never meant to say.
Okay, so if the story isn't some magic formula, what's the ultimate point? Why is it here? To figure that out, we have to zoom back out and look at where the chronicler put it, smack in the middle of the records of Judah.
I mean, why would you plant this specific lesson, this powerful story about overcoming a painful destiny by depending on God, right in the family tree of the royal tribe, the tribe that would produce King David, and in the Christian tradition, the Messiah?
Well, if you take a quick look at the family politics of Israel, things get pretty interesting. Reuben, the actual firstborn son, completely loses his birthright. Joseph, another brother, basically gets the birthright since his kids got the best land. But it was Judah, who wasn't the firstborn, who was chosen to be the ruling tribe. And bam! That's the final piece of the puzzle. The chronicler sticks the story of Jabez right here as the foundational lesson for what it means to be a leader. He's basically shouting to the future kings, your power doesn't come from your status or your birthright. True, real, lasting blessing, the kind that can actually reverse a destiny of pain, only comes from radical dependence on God. Jabez was more honorable than all his brothers, not because of his family tree, but because of his prayer.
So in the end, the story of Jabez isn't a magic formula you recite. It's a model. It's a lesson that true power comes from dependence, not from destiny. And its wild journey into a modern bestseller leaves us with a really important question. When we take ancient wisdom and try to repackage it for our own time, what essential truths do we risk losing in translation?